Okay, we're going to try this again. I'm back on here. So, are you in the 70%? Are you one of the 70%, as I mentioned before? And my name is Wes Legg, and I want to thank you for checking into my Facebook Live this evening. As you're checking in, if you would please, in the comments section, drop a note. Let us know where you're watching in from as I bring my friend Nicole Conner on here. The last time we had some real bad audio on my end of things, anyhow. But Nicole and I are going to discuss this evening what Big Pharma doesn't want you to know about essential oils. Written by Dr. Scott Johnson. And Nicole is an avid follower. She's a fiend. She's a Scott. There we go. Must be something on my end. I don't know. Bad connection tonight. Bad data, right?
Maybe.
So you followed Dr. Johnson for years, and this book, you turned me on to this book, and I want to thank you because you've opened my eyes up to so many different things. And guys, I hope tonight as you're checking in that will be a blessing to you. Like this book has been a blessing to me, a real eye-opener. So Nicole, tell us a little bit about Scott Johnson, who he is. I mean, I know he's the guru of essential oils. He's the go-to, right?
Well, he's one of many experts in the field. He's probably in the top 5 in researching essential oils, as well as Dr. Plant. He has written several books now and has been nationally and internationally recognized as someone who not only understands it, but he's really written some great go-to books and helps you understand from the scientific perspective. And he's really focused on evidence-based research, not the hype, not the, oh, gee, everyone's using this for this or that, but he does the science and researches it behind all that and publishes that information. This book in particular is with respect to that kind of research, but also to open our eyes to really what the pharmaceutical industry is doing. And he wants us to know that there are natural alternatives to the day-to-day problems that we have and that we've been prescribed with.
So I know, we talked about this and you shared this book with me, and that's why I want to kind of do a quick book review, and we really can't do it justice in 15 or 20 minutes. So
not at all.
I encourage you, if this wets your whistle, you can get this book at Amazon.com. I think it was like 10, 12 bucks. It wasn't very
Something
expensive.
like that.
Yeah, pretty inexpensive. Now, some of his other reference books can get up to $100, $120, but I was able to get it on my Kindle, so I got the reference in my pocket. Yeah, the evidence-based oil. So,
he's got another really great one that just came out. It's a book written for medical professionals, but it's written in a way that you and I would understand it. So for those who are watching are doctors or in healthcare professionals, he has a book that's specifically geared towards your profession. Like I said, he's kind of covered all the gamuts. He's widely available. He has a Facebook page. You can ask him questions there. He's very knowledgeable and certainly will reach out and help out.
Now, I haven't read this book that we're talking about from cover to cover because a lot of it is reference material and formulations and recipes and different things you can try, evidence-based things that he knows for a fact works, right? But the first chapter in particular is what I really want to hone in tonight, and I'm hoping will provide some insight to our listeners to make them take a step back and maybe take a look at the prescription medicine and the over-the-counter stuff. And maybe what he says in this book, it's scary to think that it's really true. Big Pharma.
Let me ask you just for those who are watching, I'm sure you've heard the term Big Pharma. Will you just kind of go into what that is on the bigger picture? What does that look like? Who's Big Pharma?
Well, I got a bunch of things written down here because there's a lot of facts, and there's just so much information in that first chapter of his book. But Big Pharma is the global pharmaceutical industry. And to give you an idea of how big the global pharmaceutical industry is, the global pharmaceutical industry back in 2001 was a $400 billion a year industry. And it's projected that this year they were supposed to reach $1.3 trillion.
Wow.
I mean, it's huge. And I guess we don't understand that. When we understand our government, the way our government works, there's lobbyists and stuff in there, and there's big money kind of rules everything. Well, the big pharmaceutical companies are one of the big players right now. In fact, Big Pharmacy has and it's noted here, reference 1,367 paid lobbyists in our national government lobbying and trying to protect their things, right? And also keep in mind that by putting a lot of regulations and stuff out there, they're kind of quelling out the nutraceutical, which is the natural alternative. They're making it harder and harder for them to get their message out because they're putting all
Mm-hmm.
these regulations in place to stop them. And it goes much deeper than that, Nicole. I mean, we could go into how much money are they putting into medical facilities? How much money are they putting into education? You know, look at these doctors that are coming out of school, out of college right now. They're indoctrinated with the big pharmaceutical money, right? I mean, they're telling them
Mm-hmm.
this is the kind of medicine you need to use, whether it be an NSAID or whether it be a acetaminophen or whether you use this drug. They're all being taught how to use the drugs and not taught the natural way. Dr. Johnson compares big pharma, pharmaceutical uh, industry, right? And the nutraceutical industry as opposing foes, trying to see who's
Mm-hmm.
going to get to the top of the mountain and get the bigger piece of the pie. And right now, big pharma is winning big time. As the
Mm-hmm.
nutraceutical industry, they're saying maybe hit 175 billion by the year 2020. And they're
Mm-hmm.
kind of being held in check by the big money that big pharmacy throws at them.
Well, what I think what's really interesting is that there was a recent study done that the United States comprises of that 400 billion. The United States alone is 300 and almost 340 billion dollars of that. And what's strikingly and scary to me is that they spend a third of those profits on advertising and marketing rather than spending that money on making sure that these products are safe to use. So, I mean, that just blows my mind to think about how much of what we spend and what we're taught, whether it's in school or whether it's, you know, doctors coming out of medical school, they're being funded by those pharmaceutical companies. The research industry is being funded by the pharmaceutical industries. That's a really scary statistic to me, to know that the majority of what they're spending, or a third of what they're spending, is spent on marketing tactics.
Kind of
That's
makes
scary stuff to me.
it sounds like they're trying to pad their pockets. And in fact, he calls out a couple cases where he talks about different companies. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping I've said this right, but I want to tell you this story because this one really hit me. Is Valiant? Valiant? Did I say that right? Does that sound familiar? Valiant? It's a company
The
that was
company. Mm-hmm.
originally, yeah, it was originally a company that was formed as a drug distribution company. What
Mm-hmm.
they were going to do is just distribute drugs to local pharmacies. But what happened over the course of time, the CEO of Valiant started buying up all these smaller companies. And when he bought up these smaller companies, he would fire their research and development teams or the research and development departments because he was
Mm-hmm.
trying to acquire profitable drugs that they could turn over a profit. Once he
Wow.
acquired the rights, you guys, I don't know if you know what NitroPress or Isuprel is, but they're used for congenital heart failure to treat patients in that regard. Once they acquired the rights to those particular drugs, right, they tripled the cost of NitroPress to $805 a vial,
Wow.
and they increased the cost of Isuprel to $1,346 a vial. So you see what I'm saying here is they've got it by, yeah, I mean, they've got us by the horns because we have nowhere else to go. We think
For
that's the
sure.
only option we have, and it's
So,
scary.
well, and I would imagine that there's kind of the lobbyists for the big pharma company are also in the same side and camp as the health insurance industries as well. So, aside from, you know, just the conspiracy that I think is big pharma, I think that one of the biggest misconceptions about pharmaceutical drugs is that they cure things. I think that we have all grown up, at least in my generation, to believe that doctors know our bodies best. And because they're trained and because they've been educated on these drugs to help with certain symptoms of chronic disease, they don't cure anything. In fact, it says here, when you talked about the 70%, it says the estimated 70% of Americans currently taking prescription drugs, yet Americans have the worst health outcomes of all industrialized nations.
It's
So
crazy.
if in fact we're taking these drugs to help these chronic symptoms, abate, they don't. In fact, they create more side effect problems that require more drugs. So if I'm talking about there being a conspiracy, I would say that there's a direct correlation between one drug causing a certain number of side effects and then having to take more drugs to stop the side effects. And that's not to say, and let me just be very clear, Dr. Johnson says this. He says that this book is intended to arm you with a high level of introduction to the deceptive practices of the pharmaceutical industry and to reveal the secrets that Big Pharma would rather remain concealed. He also says that he's not saying that there isn't a need for drugs. And what he says about taking drugs, if you're going to choose to do them, is that if the benefits of a drug outweigh the risks or side effects, or if the drug is necessary to preserve life, then a drug becomes a viable option. But conversely, he says, if a natural option is available that will serve the same purpose as the drug with less risk to a person, it should be considered the first option.
Oh yeah, for
So
sure.
that's what I think is the biggest misconception, is people don't think that they have a choice. And the reason I think they don't have a choice is because, we don't know what to do about it. And you are going to talk about a little bit about what we can do about this situation and the constant pushing of drugs, whether it's from our doctor or over the counter.
You think about it every night on TV. If anybody watches TV, especially during the evening news, there's at least one or two big pharmacy things on there, and they will show you a particular medicine and make you feel. I mean, the whole idea is to develop the mindset or get in your head that, oh, I got a stomach problem. Maybe I need to see the doctor about this. Next time you see your doctor, ask him about this. Because if he can get you this, right? I'm not bad mouthing. My doctor and I are real good friends. In fact, I seen him today and talked to him about, I've dealt with cholesterol issues over my life, and there are natural alternatives, essential oil treatment for high cholesterol. And so I was talking to him about that, and the wife and I had placed an order for some stuff. So, we're going to start pursuing things naturally, and we'll see where it goes, because that's definitely, we have become a pill for every ill society. I think that's one of the things he said here that I thought was pretty cool. We demand quick fixes for problems that have occurred. For problems that have occurred over a lifetime, over several months, we expect to go see the doctor and get a quick hitter. We're going to take one pill and wake up tomorrow.
Right.
And that's the way our society is. And we don't know any different because we haven't been exposed to the stuff that this book opened my eyes up to. And thank you, my friend, for sharing this book with me, because it alerted me to, hey, there's so much more out there that we're not aware of. So,
right. And with this book and what he specifically is talking about, and of course he's focused on essential oils because that's what he studies. He was diagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis. I'm not saying it quite right, but he was diagnosed with a life-threatening illness and was initially given, if I understand his story correctly, that he, is basically given a death sentence, and here's a whole bunch of medications, and this is what your life's going to look like over a period of time. And he was studying business in college at the time and decided to quit that, started researching natural alternatives because he didn't want that to be his life, and is now completely symptom-free of that condition based on his research and what he did. So he became completely passionate about it, changed his entire work of study, and now is an expert in the field. So the bottom line is sometimes we have these conditions and we think that there's only one way to treat them. And because we trust our doctors to treat the pain, we trust the doctors to treat the conditions, whatever they might be, what we don't get to have is time with them to talk about natural alternatives. And not all doctors are opposed to that. They're just not educated in it. Like your doctor today when we were talking, and he said, well, what are you taking? He's interested. He wants to know what it's about, and encouraged you to find natural alternatives, but to say, hey, if that doesn't work, we still have this other option.
One of the things that we talked about today, the doctor and I did, my doctor, and I told him I'd been doing some reading about NSAIDs, and I actually did a Facebook Live here about a week or so ago on just ibuprofen. And he says, oh, yeah, he says, ibuprofen, it's people think it's just like candy and they buy it over the counter. But you know, it does
Hmm.
have some very ill side effects that most people, you know, Dr. Johnson talks about this in the first chapter, that the FDA came out and said, we got to start putting stiffer warnings on this product because they know that it causes heart attacks and strokes. And originally they came out with the product, they thought the heart attack and strokes came as a longer term thing, right? A long term thing is taking it long
Hmm.
term. But they found
Right.
out it wasn't the case. That this people were having heart attacks and strokes a lot quicker than what they originally suspected. So they
Hmm.
started putting stiffer warning labels out.
Well, and not to mention the organ problems that happen. So if you're watching us live right now, let us know where you're watching from, and if this is resonating with you. If you want to know the name of the book, we'll drop it in the comments later after the live. Feel free to ask some questions in there. There's a lot of information in his book about specific drugs. But if you really want to know what the doctors know and what the pharmaceutical companies know, they publish all this information on a website. And if someone watching can drop this in the comments for me, it's www.p like Paul, D like David, R like Richard.net. PDR, or the Physician's Desk Reference.net. That website, you can enter in any prescribed drug that you are currently taking and go down there through all of the contraindications, all of the side effects, all of the major side effects, in addition to how they contraindicate with other medications. So I highly encourage you to do that research and then find out if there's a natural alternative that you can try. Now, I'm not suggesting that anyone go cold turkey off any drug, especially those that affect your mental wellness, but to do some homework and find out what you can do from a nutrition standpoint. Many, health can, excuse me, what's the word I'm looking for? Cardiac issues can be remedied. And Dr. Just flew out of my head now. Dr. Greger, he wrote the book, How Not to Die. He's
Right.
also another doctor that I follow avidly. You can find him on Facebook and get his updates on all of his science and evidence-based research about how nutrition can reverse different diseases and conditions. And he only reports what's evidence-based. So he's one of those people I respect and admire. It's not, and neither one, Dr. Scott Johnson nor Dr. Greger would say, don't just, cold turkey off any
You
medications
don't
your
want to
doctor's
just stop.
prescribed. But to really look at whether it's getting more exercise, and I don't mean to go out in the gym and start joining all these, like just getting a regular walk every day, getting more nutrition into your body, nutrient dense foods. We have some great nutrient dense options and supplements to food. We also have some great products that help with chronic conditions. We can't say that they cure anything because that's not the case. The bottom line is your body was made to heal itself. And while these, chronic conditions happen, doctors know that that you're probably not going to make a healthy change. So I think that
Exactly right.
doctors may feel, and maybe if some of the doctors watching now, chime in here. I think that doctors probably feel pretty hamstrung knowing that most people are not going to do anything to change. They prefer the quick fix, which they believe is a quick fix, but then becomes a long-term problem by adding more drugs to handle the side effects that make them even more uncomfortable.
Geez, you mentioned that, and it's so spot on because I started looking up, one of the products that he brought up that I think is overkill. It's very prevalent in our world. I already mentioned ibuprofen, but the other one that
Mm-hmm.
really, really, really shocked me, for those of you watching, Jeff, Dave, maybe you'll understand it. I went my friend. You realize acetaminophen, Tylenol, right?
Acetaminophen, yes.
The acetaminophen. All right. So the big word. I can't use it. I just say Tylenol. That
Yeah.
stuff. All right. Listen to what this is right out of his book. That particular drug accounts for over 100,000 calls to poison control centers each year, and last year over 60,000 visits to the ER. It's strongly
Wow.
associated to liver damage. And this is what I couldn't understand. And he references it backed up with material, leading cause of acute liver failure in the United States. That's from taking Tylenol.
Holy smokes.
And
That's
I know people that,
that's
"Oh, I
insane.
got a headache. I got to take Tylenol. I got to take Tylenol." So we become programmed and ingrained to thinking that we have to go to the medicine cabinet. There are natural alternatives, and that's That's friend, girlfriend. I can say girlfriend because you're my friend and you're a girl. Girlfriend, I just want to get the message out to my friends. There are other options. You know,
Hmm.
I don't care where you go. Start doing a little looking. Wake up, smell the coffee, Google it. I know you can't trust everything, but Dr.
Yeah.
Johnson is a well-trusted source. He's a guru. And this book, I'm telling you, this one's only 10 or 12 bucks, right?
Hmm.
Right. And I mean, anything from a cold. Well, what's he say about treating a cold there in the first chapter? They don't really cure a cold, right?
Well, you're not treating a cold. There's no drug that's going to treat a cold. There is you're masking symptoms when you're taking drugs. And while some symptoms can be debilitating when you're trying to go to work and all those things, but what I think we really need to do is to start having a little bit more balance in our lives. And when your body's trying to tell you to get some rest, go to sleep.
Yeah.
When your body's trying to tell you that you're working too hard and your stress is too high and your anxiety is through the roof, take a good look at what your priorities are. Don't just immediately take on a drug because you're having difficulty managing anxiety. There's so many wonderful essential oils with our company that are helping people every day remove one medication at a time. And I personally have been able to do that as well. My medicine cabinet is a bag of oils, and I add in one every now and then, with our free rewards points. And, I'm arming myself and my family, my kids, my pets with a natural health alternative. And I'm not saying you just turn over everything right now. Just start one thing at a time. Instead of going for that Tylenol, grab some peppermint. Tylenol is used to help reduce fevers, among other things. Peppermint can do it faster and goes right to the system and where it's supposed to be. And it's way cheaper. And it lasts a long time.
So what do
You know
you
what I'm
get?
saying?
You can get a bottle of oil for what, 20 bucks, 11 bucks, 20 bucks. Some of them are a little more
Hmm.
expensive than others. And
Hmm.
I think you get 200-300 drops,
Something
applications
like
out of
that.
each
Hmm.
bottle, right? I mean, so
Yeah.
they do last. It's just about taking the time to get educated. So Nicole, as we
Hmm.
close this out, I'm going to ask you
Hmm.
one last question, or ask you a
Sure.
question. So we as consumers, we've been taking this medicine for years. We think this is the fix. Obviously, we're kind of touting essential oils, but where do people go to get additional information? Obviously, becoming educated. Is there a
Hmm.
place that we can go to find more education? Because you're more educated in this than I am. That's why I bring you on.
Well, it depends on really what they're looking for. If they want to get information about a specific brand of oils, they can ask us. If they want to know research-based evidence, I would go to pubmed.gov. That's P like Paul, U, B like boy, MED.gov. And that will kick you over to a site for the National Institute of Health. And you can enter in any conditions that you have there. Let's say you want to learn how to sleep well. So put sleep plus essential oils and see what kind of research pops up. You can really do a lot of homework in there. If you're not a research nerd and you just want a solution to a problem, we have a solution to a problem with our essential oils.
I ask
And
you
that's
one quick
not,
question. I'm
yeah.
sorry to interrupt you, but I don't want to draw this out too long. But so, when I first heard essential oils, I thought, the aromatherapy thing and to make the bathroom smell better, and that kind of thing, right?
Yes,
Okay. And
yeah.
then I started hearing y'all talk about headaches. And so then I get Dr. Johnson's book and the Big Pharma, and I look through the back and it's talking about high cholesterol. It's talking about head colds. It's sinus
Hmm.
congestion. And then I got his big book, and then it starts talking about the big C, and it starts talking about all these other diseases and
Hmm.
narcolepsy and polymyalgia and fibromyalgia. So we're not just talking the little, I got a cold sniffle headache. We're talking
No.
major, major things that
Hmm.
these are evidence-based oils in this book, right? I'm not
Hmm.
pushing anything. I'm just saying there are natural alternatives out there, guys. If you do a little
Yeah.
looking, his book, Evidence-Based Oils, Essential Oils, is also available on Amazon.
Hmm. Yep. All of this is just a couple in my arsenal, and I have several. Um, Now, I highly encourage you, just if you want to get more information or try on a couple of oils at a time and replace one thing in your medicine cabinet. I haven't used over-the-counter cold medication in 4 years. I will use a combination of oils, and as soon as I start to feel a little tickle in the back of my throat or something like that, boom, I'll take those oils, and I generally don't have issues with being ill. Recently, one got a hold of me. My immune system was depleted. I was really been tired for a while and got a hold of me. But I'll tell you what, within 3 days, I was back at work and I didn't have any horrible side effects. I wasn't drowsy. I wasn't, like all the things that I normally would experience trying to treat myself over the counter with drugs. I didn't have those side effects. I got some rest, ate a lot of soup, took care of myself.
Just don't go get on the internet and look up a mix for a head cold and it tells you to go get these oils. It's not like the kind of oils that you're going to buy at Bed and Bath Beyond, or at Walmart or something like that. There are different types of oils, so make sure you do your homework. I mean, you want to get in a clinical grade. Am I saying that right? A clinical grade oil, which is an oil that can be tracked, and they actually tell you what the constituents are in the oil, because some of the oils, they put fillers and stuff in to cheapen them so they can sell them cheaper. So you want to be aware of what you're getting your hands on. You need to be educated on it.
Right. And I will ask, if you ask a question in the comments, if you're watching this on the replay or you're watching this live and you want to know where to find some of that information, like how to find a good oil, I can give you a reference tool for that and make a recommendation. Wes can do the same. Just reach out to either one of us via private message on how to get a medicinal grade essential oil. We'll send you a little video on how to look for them. We'll make a recommendation on a brand that we prefer. And other than that, I hope you decide to get educated on the drugs that you're taking and find a natural alternative.
Nicole, thank you so much for joining in with me. This is kind of cool.
Of course,
do this again sometime. But I like covering subjects like this. And again, the book, What Big Pharma Doesn't Want You to Know About Essential Oils, if you want to hold that up for Dr. Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
On Amazon.com, and like I said, it's less than $15. It's not, but it's packed full of a lot of the stuff we talked about, which is the whole primary reason for putting this together. And guys, I just hope we opened your eyes up, provide you with some insight into what's actually going on out there, and that we do have natural alternatives to taking the stuff that is slowly, and he says it in his book, we're slowly poisoning ourselves.
That's right.
The United States is probably leading the race, right?
That's right. Well, thank you, Wes, so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. We'll do this again soon.
Have a good evening.
Bye. Good night.
God bless.